Shall I start? Okay. So I welcome you all in the series of lectures which is being conducted by Shiksha Mandal GS College Commerce of Wardha. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Professor Bharat Mane sir, today, who is going to talk about us about parts of speech. And this is very important subject because by avoiding mistakes related with parts of speech, one can enhance his communication skills. And parts of speech is considered as a fundamental unit in English language. Uh, our speaker is working as an assistant professor of English at Ramakrishna Bajaj Agriculture College, Wardha, and he is very hardworking man, very humble by nature, and he has a deep knowledge about politics, religion as well. Now, rather than wasting too much time, now I welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. Uh, I'm sharing this PPT. Okay, please allow me to share the PPT because. Uh, uh, okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so can you see the screen? Okay, shall I start now? Okay. At the very outset, I would like to thank the GS College of Commerce and especially Dr. Toma ma'am who has given me this opportunity for conducting this lecture on parts of speech or many people say actually word classes. And I have this PPT. So actually on getting from Tomar ma'am that I have to conduct the lecture on parts of speech. Actually, that time I quite surprised that still BCom students have this part to learn. And in fact, this is not the thing that we have been learning or BCom students have been learning parts of speech or word classes for the first time. In fact, they have been learning all this since I think class 5. So this is not that much new thing for them. In the first slide, you will get here one sentence is given that superficial ideas always dig their own graves. And in this sentence, the students will notice that there is noun, there is pronoun, adjective, verb, and adverb. Uh, Actually, apart from these five, we have three more parts of speech that is given here in red font. Actually, I am getting voice, something another voice. Okay, okay. Uh-huh. So there are actually eight parts of speech, but I got from ma'am that for syllabus you have only first five, that is noun to adverb. So I have chosen that much only for this lecture. Uh, Now in this sentence, if you see first, you will get this word ideas. Okay. and the second word, that is graves. You will notice from these two words that for what these two words are used. These two words are used for specifying the name of a person, place, thing, or an idea. Okay, and students already know the definition of noun, that that is nothing but the name of a person, place, or thing, or an idea. And from these two words, we are getting that uh, nothing different these two words are reflecting here. Then pronoun. What is pronoun? From the this word there, you will get what is exactly pronoun is, and how pronoun is used. It is used, in fact, in place of a noun or a noun phrase which has already been mentioned in a sentence. Then third, you will get here the new word is superficial, that is adjective. And for what this word is used, it is used to describe or qualify a noun or noun phrase. Okay. Then after that, there is one more word, that is own. This word is also qualifying or describing the noun, that is grains. Then next word, that is dig. How we have used this word here, that to denote a state or an action, means we call it as verb. And the last one, that is adverb. Adverb is same like adjective. The way adjective we use to describe or qualify noun or noun phrase, we use adverbs to describe or qualify a verb or an adjective or an adverb. This is called as adverb. And apart from these five, there are prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections, but we don't have all this, means preposition, conjunction, and interjection for the BCom syllabus. That's why we have been learning now just these first five. Now in the second slide, you will get, now we are starting to learn noun in details. If you see here, from our sentence, we notice that there were two words, that idea and grave. And there are actually two types, singular and plural noun. Means what is exactly the singular noun is, that represents single or one in terms of its quantity. And if you add s to those nouns, that becomes plural noun. And what that represents? That represents more than one. Then actually I am taking all this very fast because this is not something new we are learning here, and it's quite easy to understand. Okay. Then second type, you will get here common noun and proper noun. What is common noun? You will get here the word man, and what that represents? That represents a common category. Then Rahul, this is nothing but a proper noun, and you will notice that difference between man and Rahul. Actually Rahul, that is written, means first letter you will get capital, means you will get that proper noun is always written like this. And common noun, that represents a common category, whereas proper noun, that represents the proper name of that whatever. For example, here it is Rahul is a man. Okay, and that represents the proper noun, proper name of that man. That's why that is called as proper noun. Then third type you will get here, that is countable noun and uncountable noun. For example, ideas and graves, these two nouns you can count, means an idea, a grave, or ideas, graves, or you can say two ideas, two graves, three ideas, three graves, means that can be counted like one, two, three, and so on. Okay. And uncountable noun, on the other hand, for example, here it is given sugar. If you try to count sugar, that counting is not possible here. That's why that is uncountable noun. Then the fourth type, that is abstract noun and concrete noun. Okay. Ideas, this is abstract noun. For example, there are many such words. For example, honesty, that is also abstract noun. Why? Because that represents the quality, okay, the abstract entity, and that is uncountable. So that is called as abstract noun because that is an attribute, that is an quality. Then graves, this is concrete noun, okay, and concrete noun, that we can count, but that is also not always countable. For example, sugar, the way actually we seen the example in prior, that sugar, that is uncountable as well as concrete noun. Then the last type, that is collective noun. The example you will get here, furniture, and this represents the collection of variety of pieces. Means these type of nouns are called as collective nouns. So these are the 5 types of noun. Then you will have the second parts of speech, that is pronoun. In that we have first personal pronoun, then possessive pronouns, then indefinite pronouns, and so on. If you see here, personal pronoun, in fact, the definition of pronoun is used as it is a substitute for a person's name or a thing's name or whatever it is. And pronouns, you will get many examples here like I, me, we, us, you, he, him, she, her, it, they, and them. These are nothing but pronouns. If you see all these pronouns in sentences, you will notice here in the first sentence that you are now learning a grammar topic. This you is used instead of a noun. Means you are now learning a grammar topic, and that's why that word is called as pronoun. Who are actually you? You are nothing but students. Okay, students, that is noun. But instead of that word here, you is used, and that is nothing but pronoun. And these personal pronouns can be categorized as subject pronouns and object pronouns. For example, this you is subject pronoun. Why? Because that pronoun here functioning as you, subject. And if you see in the second sentence, you will notice the difference between subject pronoun and object pronouns. For example, here the example is given, a grammar topic is now being taught to you. Now, the same pronoun is used here in both the sentences. But what is the difference? In first sentence, you is functioning as subject. But in the second sentence, that same pronoun is functioning as object. That's why The two types are here as subject pronouns and object pronouns. Then second type, possessive pronouns. What that represents? These pronouns actually represent ownership or possession of a noun. For example, is that my book? No, that's his book. Here you will get my and his. These two words, they are showing the ownership or possession of a noun. Then in the third sentence and in the fourth sentence also, you will get the same function here, that is possessive, means that's its shelf, and I would like to see their bookshelves. These two words, its and their, these two words means these two pronouns are showing the ownership or possession of a noun. Then you will get here in the third type, that is independent possessive pronouns. How these independent possessive pronouns differ from the earlier type, that is possessive pronouns. You will get here that independent possessive pronouns, they refer to a previously named or understood noun. Okay, and they can stand alone in a sentence, and they aren't followed by any other noun. But possessive pronouns, if you try to remove those pronouns from the sentence, you will get that that sentence is not meaningful. For example, in the earlier type possessive pronoun, if you remove my, his, its, or that, their, for example, instead of is that my book, if you say is that book, then sorry, actually uh, independent possessive pronouns, for example here, that's mine, wrong, it's ours. And in the second sentence you are getting, so I suppose those clothes are yours. No, it's theirs. If you remove mine or ours or yours and theirs from these sentences, you will get that these sentences will not have any meaning. And whereas in possessive pronouns, you can remove those pronouns and still those sentences can be meaningful. But independent possessive pronouns that can be used, for example, that's mine, they don't need other noun. Then the fourth type we have, that is indefinite pronouns. These pronouns don't point to particular nouns, and these pronouns can be used when an object doesn't need to be specifically identified. For example, most wealth is held by a select few. Then second sentence, everyone is here already. Now from these two words, few and everyone, you will get actually these two words don't point to particular nouns, and these two pronouns, they don't need to be specifically identified. That's why these two pronouns are called as indefinite pronouns. Likewise, you will have third and fourth sentence, I don't have any paper napkins. Okay, any. Then in the last sentence, you will notice, can you bring some? Some. These are indefinite pronouns. Or in the last sentence, he is nobody. These all pronouns are called as indefinite pronouns. Then the next type, relative pronouns. These pronouns used to connect a clause or phrase for adding more information. For example, these pronouns can be used in relative clauses. from these sentences, you will notice that there are relative clauses, and these relative clauses are made with the help of these relative pronouns. First example, you will get here that the driver who ran the stop sign was careless. Here it is used who. Or in the second sentence, I don't know which pair of shoes you want. Which means these pronouns like who and which, or in the third sentence, whichever, or in the last sentence, that. These pronouns are used to connect a clause or phrase for adding more information. That's why these pronouns are called as relative pronouns, because with the help of these pronouns you can form relative clauses. And in the next type you will also get that the same pronouns also be used as interrogative pronouns. And how they can be used, they can be used to pose questions. For example, what are you bringing to the party, or whatever do you mean? If you notice here that what and whatever, these are same like relative pronouns who, which, or whichever. But here actually in this particular type interrogative pronouns, these two, what or whatever, these are used to pose questions, and that's why here these pronouns are called as interrogative pronouns. Then the next type, that is intensive pronouns, and these pronouns used to emphasize or intensify nouns and pronouns which typically end in self or selves. Self, this is singular, and selves, this is plural. And you will notice that, for example, from the first sentence, I myself like to travel. Or from the second sentence, you will notice themselves. They themselves are his worst critics. What you are getting here, why these are called as intensive pronouns? Because these two pronouns are used to emphasize or intensify nouns and pronouns. For example, means we already saw the example that I myself like to travel. If you remove myself from this sentence, I like to travel, that remains. Means what is the special use of this myself, or in the second sentence themselves? That with the help of this you are trying to intensify or you are trying to emphasize. Means you are trying to emphasize, I myself like to travel. Means personally I like to travel. Or they themselves, 1 minute, they themselves are his worst critics. Okay, means here in this second sentence also you are trying to emphasize or intensify the noun or the pronoun. The same intensive pronouns you can also use as reflexive pronouns. For example, you will get here that in example like you are going to have to drive yourself to the restaurant today. Or in the second sentence, we gave ourselves plenty of extra time. In these two sentences, the same intensive pronouns are functioning as reflexive pronouns. Means you are going to have to drive yourself. Here actually that you is getting in terms of, for example, that getting in terms of reflection. That's why that is called as reflexive pronoun. or in the second sentence also, we gave ourselves plenty of extra time. Here is also ourselves reflexive to that we, means that's why these same pronouns can be used as intensive as well as reflexive pronouns. And this last type you can get here, that is demonstrative pronouns. And these pronouns take the place of a noun that's already been mentioned. For example, these are ugly, or such was his understanding. Here you are getting that these two pronouns, these and such, are demonstrative pronouns. Why? Because in these sentences, uh, these two pronouns are taking place of those nouns that's already been mentioned in the previous sentences. Means those are understood. That's why these are called as demonstrative pronouns. So this much we have the types of pronouns. Then the third parts of speech, that is adjectives. In adjectives, first type is descriptive adjectives, and these adjectives call up images, tones, and feelings. For example, steamy weather is different from stormy weather. You will notice here these two words, that is steamy and stormy. What these two are doing, they are actually describing the nouns. Okay, and which are those nouns? Weather, means steamy weather and stormy weather. And these are nothing but qualifying those nouns or describing those nouns. That's why these adjectives are called as descriptive adjectives. Then also some descriptive adjectives come from verbs. For example, a broken keyboard or running shoes. You will notice here that broken, that adjective is formed with the help of a verb, that is break. And running, this adjective is framed with the help of the verb run. Means only the difference between these two is the first descriptive adjective, that is made up of a verb break. Actually here broken, that is a past participle form of that verb break. And in the second example, that is running, that is present participle form of that verb run. Means these two verb forms are functioning as descriptive adjectives. Likewise, nouns also can be used as adjectives. For example, here, the student bookstore. You will notice here that the word student, that is nothing but, in fact, we already learned noun, and from that you can easily understand that actually student is noun, but in this particular situation that noun is working as adjective, and that's why sometimes we can use noun as adjectives. Means this student, that noun is working here as adjective. Yes. But actually PPT is of 13 slides total. Hello? Hello? Yes, yes, yes. But 7 minutes, how it is possible? Because there are 13 slides, and even I was not cleared by Tomar ma'am that how much I have to. Hmm? Hello. Uh-huh. No, no, no. But I think 40 minutes. We can extend up to 40 minutes, because I think. Hello. Can I start? Okay, okay. I'm covering fast. No problem. Okay. Mhm. Then you will get here the next type, that is demonstrative adjectives, and these adjectives you can use to answer the question. For example, uh, this novel is the worst I have ever read, or these biographies are much better. These, in fact, you will notice here that under pronouns we learn this and these, but here these are working as demonstrative adjectives, because this word is qualifying or describing that noun, that is novel, and these, that is describing biographies. Means these two pronouns actually here functioning as demonstrative adjectives. Likewise, in the third and fourth sentence, that author and those events. Okay. Then third type you will have, that is possessive adjectives. This also actually we learned under pronouns our and its, but in these particular sentences, these are working as possessive adjectives. For example, our joke book, means this our, that is qualifying joke book. That's why that is functioning here as adjective, and its well-worn pages. It's, that is also working as possessive adjective here. Then next type, that is indefinite adjectives, that include some, many, any, few, several, and all. For example, some jokes, few listeners. Here you will notice that this some and few we learned under pronouns, but the same pronouns are functioning here as indefinite adjectives. Then last type, that is questioning adjectives. Which and what, you will notice here in these two sentences, which joke did you like better? Here that word which, that is describing or qualifying, that is joke, that noun, and what, that is qualifying the noun reason. Means that's why these are called as questioning adjectives. Then the fourth parts of speech we have, that is verbs. You will get here that if we try to define verbs, in fact there is no clear definition that can cover all its aspects. But broadly speaking, the two most common kinds of verbs as follows, that is first action verb and stative verb. Again, action verbs that can be what we can say categorized into transitive verb and ditransitive verb, and last, that is intransitive verb. Transitive verb means what? The action transits from the agent. Agent means doer of action, to the object. Object means what? The target of action. And hence that is called as transitive verb. And these transitive verbs, they require two participants. From the examples you will get here, that I have seen the movie. If you try to ask the question, I have seen what? You will get the answer, the movie. Means what you are getting here, that the action is getting transited from agent to object, and that's why these verbs are called as transitive verbs. In the same way, in the second sentence, helped, that verb is also functioning here as transitive verb. Here you will get the list of the action transitive verbs, that is admire, avoid, build, buy, catch and complete. These verbs can transit the action from the agent to the object, and that's why these are called as transitive verbs. Then ditransitive verbs. These verbs require three participants. For example, Mr. Joshi teaches us English. You will get here, Mr. Joshi teaches us. Means if you try to ask question whom, you will get answer us. And if you try to ask question what, you will get the answer English. Means from this you are getting that why these verbs are identified as ditransitive verbs, because the action is transited twice. That's why, and you will get that us and English, these are objects. One is indirect object and one is direct object. Likewise, you will get the list of those verbs here: advance, allow, ask, avoid, bring, build. Means these words also can be used as ditransitive verbs. Then the last type, that is intransitive verb from the action verb. It requires only one participant. From the example, you will notice that the verb evaporated, you will get that that requires only subject and that doesn't need object. For example, the water evaporated very quickly. Here you cannot ask what or whom, and that's why it is called as intransitive verb. Means action here is not getting transited from subject. Likewise, you will have here list that ache, arise, behave, brood, come and cry. These are also intransitive verbs. Then some are verbs that can be used both transitively as well as intransitively. For example, fly and stop. These two verbs you can use both transitively and intransitively. For example, in the first sentence, birds fly in the sky. Here in this sentence, that is functioning as intransitive. Whereas in the second sentence, children fly kites, that is functioning as transitive. Means in the first sentence, you cannot ask question what or whom. But in the second sentence, you can ask questions what children are flying. Children are flying kites. And that's why here action is getting transited from the subject to object. Means the same verb here functioning as in the first sentence intransitive and in the second sentence as transitive. The same way here you will get the examples like I stopped at the shop and I stopped the bus. Means that in that first sentence, stop means what? That cease to move. And in the second sentence, stop means what? That cause to stop. Means some verbs can be used both transitively as well as intransitively. Then you will get here actually there are certain pair of verbs that can be intransitive and the other that can be transitive. There are certain pairs actually like sit, sit, then rise, raise, then fall, fell, lie, and lay. You will get here from these examples that we sit in the first row at school, and in the second sentence we seat our guest in the first row. From this you are getting that here actually sit, that is intransitive verb, means action is not getting transited, and in the second action is getting transited because we, that is subject, and our guest, that is object, and that's why first sit, that is intransitive, and second sit, that is transitive. Likewise, rise, then raise, fall, fell, lie, and lay. Actually, there are many such pairs, uh, means these type of, and they can work in transitive and transitive. Then stative verbs. Stative verbs, actually these verbs, they don't represent any action, and here you will get that Raju is my friend. From this example, that this verb is not stating any action, or in the second statement the children seemed quite tired. In this sentence also, that verb is not stating any action, means that just expresses the state of the situation, and that's why these verbs are called as stative verbs. Then um, there is one more example here, that is actually fall. This verb can be used as action verb as well as stative verb. For example, in the first sentence, he may fall from the roof. Here in this statement, that verb is acting as action verb. But in the second statement, Holi may fall on a Sunday this year. Here in this statement, that verb, same verb is functioning as stative verb. Means there are some verbs, they can function both action verb as well as stative verb. Then next type, that is finite and non-finite verbs. For example, finite verbs means what? Actually, those verbs, the form of those verbs that actually gets changed, but non-finite verb that remains unchanged. Even non-finite verbs also known as infinitives. Here, in the first example, you will get that we love watching cartoons, or in the second statement, the doctor advised him to drink only boiled water. From the first two example, that is to drink, that is non-finite verb, and that is used with the help of that to. But here in these two sentences, watching, you are getting actually ing form that is used here for watch, and in the second example, that is past participle form is used for this boiled, and that's why these non-finite verbs are here used as verbal adjectives. So all these to drink or watching or boiled, these are called as non-finite verbs. And in fact, finite or non-finite, that is so much dependent on the way those verbs are used. Then here you will get the next type of verb, that is gerunds, and that is also we can study under the category of noun, that is gerund nouns. For example, swimming is a great exercise. Now swimming, you will notice here, that is verb, but that ing suffix is used, that inflection is used here. That's why that has become swimming. And in fact, in this particular situation, that is working as noun. That's why that is called as gerund noun. And here that is functioning as subject. Means what are we talking about? We are talking about swimming, and that is a great exercise. In the second sentence, you will notice that Sarita hates cooking. Here, the same gerund that is working as object, means Sarita hates what? You will get answer cooking. Here also that is gerund, and cook, that is actually verb, and with the help of that verb this gerund is formed. Then the next type, that is auxiliary verbs. Actually these are called as helping verbs also. In those there are two types, that is principal auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. In principal auxiliaries you will get do, be, forms, that is am, is, are, was, were, and have, that is have, has, had. And if you see the sentences here, you will get they don't use what they are told to. That do is used here to make a negative sentence. And do they use what they are told to? That do is used here for making interrogative sentence. Then likewise we can use do for question tag, emphasis, and avoidance of repetition. Means these type of auxiliaries are called as primary auxiliaries. Then second type, that is modal auxiliaries. You will get here that can, could, may, might, will, shall, would, should, must, need to, dare, or dare to. These all you can use as modal auxiliaries. And you will notice here in these sentences that can is used here to show the ability. Then could is used here as the past tense of that can, or may is used here to show the probability, or might, that is actually past form of may. In the same way, will for certainty, or that also be used as for offer or suggestion, or would, should, then must, need to, and dare, or dare to. Means these all are modal auxiliaries. Then the last parts of speech, that is adverb. Here you will get that adverbs can modify a verb. Also they can modify an adjective, and even they can modify another adverb. From the examples you will get the difference here. The girls ran quickly. This quickly, this adverb is qualifying the verb ran. Means what you are telling, actually you are telling that how the girls are running. Okay, how the girls ran, they ran quickly. And even in the second sentence, go to the administration office first and then come to class, or they are moving her office upstairs. You will notice that not all adverbs are just made up by using the suffixes like ly, but some are like first and then or upstairs. These are also adverbs here. Then second type, that is those adverbs which can modify an adjective. Maria was almost finished when they brought her an exceptionally delicious dessert. From this sentence, you will get that actually these two, for example, this first almost, that is qualifying that verb finished, but the second adverb exceptionally, that is qualifying the adjective, and which is that delicious. Okay, means in some sentences adverbs can qualify even adjectives. Then third type, that is some adverbs modify another adverbs. For example, Rahul was eating her lunch somewhat cautiously. And here from this sentence you will notice that somewhat, that word is qualifying the another adverb, that is cautiously. And what that clarifies? That clarifies the degree or intensity of that adjective. Likewise, in the second sentence, she can discuss the English language very thoroughly. This word very, that is adverb here, that is qualifying the another adverb, that is thoroughly. Then even we can categorize all these adverbs like this: adverbs of time, adverbs of frequency, adverbs of manner, and lastly adverbs of place. For example, in these sentences you will notice that John went to the cinema yesterday. Yesterday, that adverb is used here to denote a point in time, okay, or point of time. Or in the second sentence, when Julia talks to her father, she is really happy. Here, when, or in the third sentence, that soon, these all adverbs are uh, telling about the time. That's why these are called as adverbs of time. Then in the second type, that is adverbs of frequency, usually, sometimes, and never, these adverbs actually uh, representing here the occurrences. Okay, and that's why these adverbs are called as adverbs of frequency. Means usually it doesn't enjoy reading. Or in second sentence, you will notice here that sometimes means he sometimes go there. You will notice the difference between usually and sometimes. Or in the third sentence, she has never done that. Usually, sometimes, and never, these are actually differentiating in terms of occurrences, and that's why these adverbs are called as adverbs of frequency. Then next type, that is adverbs of manner. For example, the girl sings beautifully, means how sings the girl sings beautifully, means that is representing manner of singing. Or how that the teacher speaks calmly, how that teacher speaks, he speaks very calmly. Or you answered that question correctly, how you answered that question correctly, means these adverbs representing the manner, and that's why these are called as adverbs of manner. And the last type, that is adverbs of place. Okay, uh, that is actually denoting the place. That's why these are called as adverbs of place. For example, hurry, you are getting behind, or Mary fell down. These are adverbs of places. So I tried to cover here um, many things actually, and many nuances you can notice here is how these all nouns and pronouns and adjectives, verbs or adverbs you can use in different way. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you.